Turnpike and Bridge Authority will now come to order. Before we start, Lori?
Yes, you probably have noticed that that is not Eric Seabury sitting at the end of the table. Eric had a routine medical procedure the other day that didn't turn out as routine as he would have liked, so he's recuperating, and Jeff is project manager who works with Eric, so he'll be giving Eric's presentations today.
Can we protest that?
He's ready, willing, and able.
Didn't take him long, Jeff, huh?
Welcome to the club.
We couldn't let you skate on that.
First item is the approval of the minutes of the January 25th meeting. Motion by Peter, seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Next item is the Mount Hope Bridge charging station.
Good morning, I'll take that. We're seeking approval to start charging an hourly rate at our charging station located in Bristol to at least cover the cost of electricity supplying the charger. The charger was installed in 2017, and in late last year we upgraded the software, which allows us to see who is using it, how often they're using it, and if approved, we would charge a rate somewhere in the $2 to $4 range per hour and cap it at 4 hours, so that way other people have the opportunity to use the charger as well.
Just to add to some of the discussion on this and the background on this, and we have it on the agenda as discussion, vote, or other action. So we did some research to see who else is charging for electricity. Obviously, we're a quasi-public entity, so we're purchasing electricity. So we shouldn't. The consideration should be whether we should then be giving it away. But in the interest of full disclosure, we've done some research, and while I think all of the agencies in Rhode Island are moving in that direction, they're not there yet. So I think at the Gateway Center in Newport, which is owned by the city of Newport, they are charging, and I think they charge $1.50 an hour for the first hour.
Per hour.
Right, and then, I did speak with the PUC yesterday with Chris Kearns from the Public Utilities Commission, and he indicated to me that while they would fully intend to take that up, and they approve of our concept, they're not there yet. They do have 50 charging stations in park and ride lots and at DOA and at DEM, and they're not there yet at the point of charging for the electricity. But again, we're a quasi-public entity. We issue bonds. We pay for that electricity. So there are considerations to be balanced to consider what's best here. So I have not heard from all of the entities to which I reached out, so there may be some more research to be done, but we wanted to bring this in front of you at least, and get the discussion going.
Peter?
Just a question, this is on the same property that we rent to Roger Williams University?
Correct, it's at the gatehouse.
Is access to that limited to Roger Williams, or just anybody that
Anybody.
rents stuff? Okay.
Yeah, actually, if you go on to and just pull up charging stations in Rhode Island on a map, you'll see it located there. It has a picture of it and everything.
Okay. No, I just, because of the relationship with Roger Williams, I just want to make sure that it was open to the public, not tied to Roger
But
Williams.
I'm sure, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I would imagine that folks at Roger Williams use it quite often.
Because it's only been in the last 2 months, now we have visibility in who is using it, and it's.
You don't have to get into detail, but I'm just, I can only imagine. I'll leave it at that. But
It's convenient.
What's that?
It's convenient for the.
I was just going to say that, it seems reasonable to me. Those of us who have gas-powered cars, we pay for gas.
Exactly.
Right? So
Exactly.
they have to expect, I would think, to pay something.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think what we should do, Laurie, as a suggestion, is maybe speak to bond counsel, which I'm sure you've already reached out, knowing you, and just get it on record what their feelings are, because we have obligations and Karen was spot on, I think, with that comment, so.
I'm sorry. go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
I wasn't.
just how does that relate to the station that's here? Does that spill over into this station as well?
This charger is quite old. The manufacturer went out of business 4 years ago. So if we were to do anything here, we would have to get a brand new charger. I'd probably get the same one that's up at Mont Hope. It's called an EBSE. They do cost about $15,000 to $17,000.
That's
for it.
considered like a level 2?
It's a level 2, not a level 1's like $35,000. So we would have to do that and then have it installed, which last quote I got was about $1,000 to have it installed by a qualified electrician.
So is that the plan ultimately, to also have it here, or just leave well enough alone with Mount Hope for now and leave this?
I think so. I think it would be up to the board if maybe I can look into actual pricing. If that's something that we want to upgrade, it can be on the same, what's called the AMP Up network, so we can see who's charging.
What I would do, if I can make a suggestion, is I would wait until we get answers on this.
Yep.
And then, you know, if we can charge, then maybe proceed, but if not, then I would be hesitant to do it because it's costing us.
Yeah.
You know, and the authority has bills to pay. So,
They would, you know, I always look at stuff from rate of return. Obviously, spending the money here, there would be no rate of return. At least up at Mount Hope, where all we did was a software upgrade, and I'd be looking just to recoup the costs for the electricity.
Makes sense.
Jeff did map out where there are electric vehicle charging stations in the Aquidneck Island area, and while they're virtually all on privately owned property, they all charge. The only one that I noticed that did, virtually all of them, but again, they're private sector entities, but they're charging. And the only public sector one that I could see that in the Aquidneck Island area that is also charging is the city of Newport at the Gateway Center.
all right, so we know what we're gonna do then.
And we do, we have a
Okay.
plan. We'll have it on the agenda for next month.
Perfect. Next is routine inspection of Hummock's Avenue Bridge.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Good
members
morning,
of the board. I'll be presenting agenda item number 5, routine inspection of the Holmes Avenue Bridge. Federal Highway Administration requires routine bridge inspections every 2 years, and the Holmes Avenue Bridge is due in April of this year. The authority issued a request for a quote from 5 of the pre-qualified on-call technical consultants. 4 quotes were submitted ranging from $6,412 to $13,038. Green International Affiliates was the lowest cost submitted at $6,412, which was below the budget estimate of $9,000. Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority staff recommends issuing a notice to proceed to Green International Affiliates to perform the Hummock's Avenue Bridge routine inspection in an amount not to exceed $6,412. Any questions?
Questions, discussion, motion by Karen, second by Darrell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Jeff. Next is replacement of flat roof at 33 Ferry Road, Bristol.
Agenda item number 6, the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority Maintenance Manager, Mr. Frank Flowers, was notified by Roger Williams University that there was water leaking into a portion of the building at 33 Ferry Road, leased and occupied by the university. The Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority staff immediately responded to inspect the facility. The initial inspection by the staff determined that water penetration was from a flat roof surface, and it was supported by a qualified roofing contractor that we contacted to come follow up on the inspection. The roofing contractor also indicated excuse me, that there could be asbestos-containing material in one of the roof layers or repairs. RIPTA will procure an on-call environmental consultant to test the roofing material. After the results are determined, the staff will formulate a scope of work and issue an invitation for bid to remove and replace the existing roof. The IFB will include a contingency for any additional repairs required when the original roof is removed. An update will be provided to the board once the bid response is complete. Are there any questions about that? It's just information.
I can kind of visualize that, but what's like the square footage of that, that roof?
What is
The square footage of, just
I
general
don't have
sense.
the exact, it's the porch.
It's in the back there,
Position
right?
on the back
Yeah.
and it's on the side. So, there's a set of metal stairways that gets you to the second level. That will have to be removed. All the flashing will have to be
Oh, really?
replaced. It looks like 3 layers of roofing, looks like some patching from liquid asphalt. It's a burr roof. It's a stone over a liquid asphalt material.
Right.
So there's quite a bit of
Built up
roof,
roof, yeah.
correct. There's insulation layer underneath it. It does have a pitch to it, so it will not have to be re-sloped to comply to code. We will reach out to the state because the building is historical, so we'll probably get a waiver from code compliance on putting the new roof back on. And again, the determination of whether it has asbestos or not will determine the scope. We'll have to have that mitigated prior to any replacement. And we don't know what the extent of the damage is under the roof. It does appear that the leak has been there for a little bit of time, and we're just getting to it now. So with any roofing project, if you've done one in your home, you don't know how many of the sublayers are rotted, been there for a while. So once we get all our information, we'll come back to the board with a recommendation to replace it.
You may want to put the tolls back on the Mount Hope, the pit. It's got all the ingredients.
Thank you, council.
It's got all the ingredients.
Okay, this was just on for discussion.
Discussion. Perfect. Thank you, Ken. Next item is capital projects.
So I have 2 updates from the engineering report. The Newport Pell Bridge Pier 5W barrier replacement project. All the shoring and stiffeners have been installed. The shoring is rolled up to spec. The stiffeners are bolted down. That portion of the project has been paused. We decided not to do the bearing replacement in the winter weather due to the forces on the bearing itself. We didn't know where the load would be. So it's been paused until April when the regular DOT construction season starts up. That'll be April 15th. And it should be completed by May 12th. So both of them will be replaced in like 2 2-week phases on each side. We felt it was best to wait till the weather was better. We knew we would have weather this good this time of year. The next project update is the AET Phase 2. The Round Turnpike and Bridge Authority staff met with WSP and did a detailed review of the 75% design on Friday, February 10th. All comments were noted in the draft by WSP. Both the tolling side of the house and the engineering side of the house participated in a page turn for complete review of the 75% design. They'll be submitting us a final draft within the next couple of weeks with our recommendations. That project is also on time and on budget.
Lori, the gantry issue, is that still?
Yes,
uh,
that's.
How are we handling that?
That's ongoing. Where the gantry is structurally designed. It's just a question of aesthetics. So, which, by the way, can come later. We they can get going with the structural
foundation.
design of it. We did. I think at the last meeting we mentioned we met with 2 local architectural firms who had whose eyes lit up at the concept of having some input into what it's actually going to look like. So we're proceeding with that. Last I knew, WSP was speaking to both of the firms, hoping to get the best of both worlds of their ideas to see what it will look like. We've got some decisions to make in terms of what exactly that gantry will look like, and I will absolutely bring that before the board before we make any final decisions. One of the questions would be whether there should be any lettering at all on the gantry. We've had lettering on the plaza, but this is a gantry, so I don't know that there is any need to have anything. And as we all know, the name of the bridge has been the subject of articles in the media because no one agrees on how to refer to this bridge. and its legal name is the Claiborne Pell Bridge, but nobody calls it that. So we're working on, you know, what it will look like and whether there will be any lettering at all. So that's moving along. But as I said, that's the least of our concerns. The most important concern is that it work correctly. You know, Katie's down there saying, you know, it needs to capture data. That's what it needs to do for me, and I don't care what it looks like, right, Katie?
That's right.
So, but we do care also what it looks like. So we'll accomplish both goals.
Thank you. All set?
I'm all set.
Next, financial report.
Year-to-date performance is solid. Revenue is higher than budget by $4.1 million, while operating expenses are lower by $600,000. Overall, operating profit, which is simply the revenue less operating expenses, is higher by $4.7 million, or 35%. I did a comparison versus 2019, that's pre-COVID levels, and I'm pleased to report that revenue is higher by $5.5 million, or 30%. Operating expenses are higher by only $833,000, and operating profit is higher by $4.7 million. So compared to pre-COVID levels, we're back, even though the traffic is not back to those levels. With respect to budget, personnel expenses, insurance, repairs and maintenance, bridge inspections, and transponder expenses are all lower than budget. With respect to the expense categories that are higher than budget, we plan to renegotiate with our telephone provider this spring as the contract expires. And so we're hopeful that we can renegotiate the costs associated with that and bring those costs down. Right now we pay anywhere between $8,000 to $13,000 a month for telephone services. So it is a large ticket item. And the other costs should come down. The board approved Katie to move forward with a task order last month. Once that's implemented, which I think is in the next 30 to 45 days-ish, is that right? That should reduce postage costs and should reduce our supplies for paper and envelopes. And as I've reported over the last 6 months, those costs have been really high due to the bill-by-mail transactions. So that's my update, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Gas tax is still down generally from where?
It's down $500,000 from budget. It was worse in July and August than it has been for the last 4 months. So we've been much closer to budget.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know, again, prices came down and people said, I'm gonna drive more, but it's about $500,000 off from budget for the first 6 months.
And the next time we'll hear about it is in May at the May Revenue Estimating Conference at the state level.
Correct.
Ready for a lot of traffic this summer. Now you have what, U.S. Senior Open in Newport this.
Oh, is that right?
So that's going to generate a lot, I think. Next.
Okay.
Laura?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Towing operations, as I report every month, we have a lot going on down in the towing operations. The hub, as I've explained, is the latest and the greatest. It's going to streamline the way we exchange what we refer to as files, but if we're motorists making our way from Maine to Florida in our seamless Easy Pass system, we just know we go through the gantries and somehow it all gets squared up. But the fact is that we're all exchanging files behind the scenes. This centralized hub is going to be a wonderful improvement to the system. However, as you can imagine, lots of the members of the committee and the IAG are attorneys, and since I'm guilty as charged, there's lots of room for disagreement. So we inch forward in finalizing the plans for the hub, but we're scheduled to go live with the hub, where we'll all be feeding our toll files for other states. We'll all be feeding those files into a centralized hub, hopefully before Memorial Day. If it doesn't happen, if it gets pushed out again, then I think we probably will be putting it off until after the summer, because none of the agencies wants to go live during the summer. Many of them are destination locations, and nobody wants to be dealing with that in the good weather. So that's what's going on with the hub. The back office contract is proceeding. Lots of moving parts to that, and to do all of this, the hub, the back office, and the new lane integration. Transitioning eventually from CAPS to a MOVIS, as the board voted to do. All of that is. To do all of that at once is a Herculean task. So, we deal with that day and night. The really good news is that's all going smoothly, and customer service is improving. I've been promising you, I think, that we know we need to do better in customer service. We have, because of the fact that we went all electronic here, we are keeping the Jamestown Post Office busy with piles of plate reads that go out in the mail. We are convincing more and more Rhode Islanders in this area to get an Easy Pass. Many people understand that they would much rather have the discounted rate available than pay $3 per axle, which it is at this point. So, but we have cut way back. We're caught up on the backlog in reading images and getting those notices out the door. So that's at least those who are receiving those notices are receiving them on a more timely basis now. Federal funding, we have another deadline coming up for raise number 3, while we also wait for Bridge Investment Program number 1, and the decision on that, on the Mount Hope Bridge, which would be for dehumidification and redecking of the Mount Hope Bridge. The decision on that is due at the end of February, beginning of March, so we're just a few weeks away from that. Fingers crossed. We know that the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, has been approached by the federal delegation, by the state, the governor's office. So we're very hopeful that we'll be successful with the Bridge Investment Program and won't have to perhaps rely on getting it through the RAISE program. So you will be seeing in your mailboxes from me today a request for support letters from the board members. We've already pushed out a lot of letters to the federal delegation, to organized labor, to the state, to the governor's office, to the representatives and senators who represent the host communities. The response is always overwhelmingly positive, including some who call and say, tell me what more I can do to help. Everybody understands that a 94-year-old bridge needs attention. So, and we think we've gotten that message to Washington, so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to have good news. Hope springs eternal. In relation to that, the George Washington Bridge just had a complete rehab that cost almost $2 billion. It included some of the work we're going to do on the Mount Hope Bridge. So one of the things we've been talking about now that it's done, we'll take a trip. A couple of us will take a trip and go see the George Washington and see all this work that's been done. So that gets us all ready to do our own work. The final thing that I had on, just to make you aware, this session, the only bill we have submitted is a bill that I call the win-win bill, which is we are asking the General Assembly to change our legislation so that when a motorist receives a bill in the mail, instead of having 14 days to pay it, they have 30 days to pay it. It may seem counterintuitive because we say, well, aren't we going to lose money? The truth is that too much of our customer service staff spends time talking to people who just got home from a 2-week vacation, or for whatever reason they were hospitalized or whatever, and that bill is at the bottom of the pile and it's too late and they're incurring fees. And so I would much rather have our staff talking to motorists that have other issues than just, I'm a day late on the 14 days. 30 days is more reasonable. we were given, we ran it by the governor's office. They approved of the bill. It's pending. The new rep from Jamestown, Representative Finkelman, is the primary sponsor, but the whole Aquidneck Island delegation is also co-sponsoring the bill, and we hope that it will pass because we see it as good for our customers and good for us. So that's my report.
Perfect. Questions? Thank you. Let's see. Next item is executive session. Still going in?
I think I'm comfortable with this being moved to the March agenda.
Okay. Okay. Do I need a motion for that, council?
No, I think you can continue it as chair to the March meeting, and we'll just put it on the agenda again for March meeting when the public notice goes up.
Okay. And do I need a motion or just?
I think you just pass it.
Just pass it, okay, a motion, second, discussion. Okay, anything else? All good? Motion to adjourn? So moved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.